Hi, everybody. I've been so excited to do this session, and I'm so happy to see many people here to hear about this. This is a new option for learning how to teach reading to adults. This has been a little project of mine for a while. And I think it's just about ready to go. I'm Christine Kelly, and I am the Atlas Literacy Coordinator. Um, in addition to that, I taught in two adult basic ed programs for about 26 years. And I currently am, as I said, the Atlas Literacy Coordinator. I work with amazing people. I also have, I'm also an adjunct professor with Rutgers University. It's my second year, and I teach, right now I'm teaching an effective reading and writing instruction for the adult basic education student. So I have 20 graduate students who are anxiously awaiting their grades, and they're just not going to get them today yet. So today's agenda. What is this new resource? And we're gonna talk a little bit about how we got to this place. I'm gonna talk about some of the key features of this Canvas course, and then the big question, how can I access it? And then I'll take any questions that you might have. So this course was part of a pilot that I ran this spring in April and May, and I included a few quotes throughout the presentation. And here's one, and just really, this was the outcome that I most hoped for. This participant said that my growth has been huge, and now I have the resources that I've been needing. Whereas there's still, room and revisions that will be happening, especially as more evaluations come in. I think it's a great start. So what is it? And where did it come from? Well, it's a Canvas course, but before I talk about it, I need to talk about that phrase, standing on the shoulders of giants. In the probably mid 2000s, I was doing reading and writing trainings in our system, and I met Marn Frank. And I ended up being a star trainer in this big reading initiative across the country, a star trainer with Marn, and her loves were alphabetics and fluency, and mine were vocabulary and comprehension. So we melded together really well. And she, had been doing a lot of work, and then I just popped in and was like, hi. And that began a really wonderful relationship where she was a mentor, and we did a lot of work together on evidence-based reading instruction in Minnesota. So I just need to give that nod. So yes, I created this course, but it has come from a lot of work. And the first work was STAR, Student Achievement in Reading. This is a national evidence-based adult reading initiative. And some of you who are here may very well have been part of one of those cohorts that started in 2008 and went through till 2021. And then in 2011, we all decided, STAR is very structured. It's very specific for a particular group of adult learners. We need to broaden it because more people want to know about evidence-based reading. So we started talking about EBRI, evidence-based reading. We have the EBRI study circle, and doing more sessions around that. Then Links put out some self-paced online modules for assessing or learning how to assess reading and teaching evidence-based reading instruction. And the modules are good, but there was no feedback and no CEUs. And I thought this is important work that I think people probably want some feedback. So that's how we got here today. And there are a lot of people over the years who've been part of STAR and EBRI work who have contributed to this. So this, I am the face of it right now, but I really hope you walk away knowing that I really have stood on the shoulders of giants. So in spring of 2024, I did a pilot mini cohort. I had 11 participants who took this journey with me. with all this new content. I ran it in April and May. Participants worked through the online modules, and then there were 4 synchronous webinars. So we would come together for an hour and a half each time. Patsy Egan co-hosted with me, and we had her brilliant low-level ESL mind along for the ride. And we really dove deep into what makes up evidence-based reading instruction, which is, of course, a body of research, professional wisdom, and best practices that have been developed and replicated, and practitioner wisdom, which we have a lot of here in Minnesota. And I have to call this out, Penny and Mara, if you're here, I hope the pictures I chose of you are okay. In addition to the evaluations from the pilot group, I also wanted other eyes on the course content, and Penny Brown from Southwest Adult Ed and Mara Martinson from Minneapolis Adult Education were kind enough and lovely enough to spend time going through all of the content and giving me really detailed, meaningful feedback. Penny is a former STAR trainer. She is EBRI extraordinaire. She teaches intermediate and advanced literacy. And Mara, her lens is beginning ESL, and just wonderful feedback. So again, lots of minds as part of this. And who is the audience? Well, the audience is anyone, really. Adult education teachers, administrators, educational assistants, paras, volunteers. Although at the end, I have a great reminder about trainings that can help volunteers really be a great support for you in the classroom. You can have a little knowledge about teaching adults, a lot of knowledge, which many of you have as much as I do because you've been doing this for so long, or none, no prior knowledge or experience in evidence-based reading for adults. The course is also going to be there as a reference. You might be someone who, say, did the STAR cohort many years ago, and you're thinking, oh, it's been a while maybe since I've done diagnostic reading assessment. I kind of just want to review how to do diagnostic reading assessment. Well, you're going to be able to enroll in the course and do the modules that you would like to do. This will, of course, be available for a lot of CEUs for people who decide they want to take the entire course from beginning to end. So let's take a look. I'm just so excited because this I've worked with just so many wonderful people to get to this place. So these are the course objectives, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but really at the beginning, it's to look at the foundation of evidence-based reading instruction. We don't have a huge research base, but it is growing. And then talking about those 4 essential components of reading, alphabetics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension, and looking at why they're all important, and they're very related. I know that in the session this morning, the reading session with Christina Miller, she was talking about how integral fluency is. I knew that when I was teaching, even in the pre-GED and GED classroom, I had learners who would test maybe a 9th or 10th grade level on a tape. And they had some fluency needs that were preventing them from being able to handle all of the text on the GED. Of course, to identify diagnostic reading assessment tasks for each of those 4 essential components, and then talking about the results. And then digging into different approaches and activities for teaching alphabetics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension with lots of resources. And then, of course, to reflect just on reading assessment and instruction in your program, your classroom, or for administrators, and I did have an administrator participate in the pilot, thinking about it on a program level. There are 8 learning modules. There were fewer, but the diagnostic reading assessment module, I had it as one module, and it was just a monster. And so looking at pilot participant evaluations, I broke it up a little bit into kind of an introductory model. Why do diagnostic reading assessment if we've got TABE scores or CASA scores, or why do we need more information? And then breaking up assessing alphabetics and fluency, and then vocabulary and comprehension. And one of the reasons I broke that up is because, and you learn this in the course, for a large group of learners, particularly high beginning ESL on up through high intermediate adult basic education, we've learned over the years to just assume those learners need what we call tier 2 words. So we don't have to assess many of our learners on vocabulary specifically. We can make some assumptions about what kind of vocabulary they need. And comprehension, if you find out that students are struggling with decoding and reading with accuracy, rate, and prosody, and have vocabulary needs, you don't necessarily have to worry about formal comprehension instruction. We do want to check in and make sure students are comprehending what they are reading, but in terms of doing intensive and explicit comprehension strategy instruction, the goal is to build, and once we build some of their other components that need work, comprehension is going to improve as well. And then some modules about teaching, again, with lots of resources, and then a wrap up, because your evaluations are extremely important to me and to continuing to refine the course. So what are some of the features? Well, videos, quite a few videos, and not just from me. So I have a series of short clips from John Strucker, who was just one of the dominant voices in US adult basic education, talking about diagnostic reading assessment. I have some great videos from people here in Minnesota, teachers demonstrating how to do different kinds of fluency instructional approaches. Then I have videos. Some of the videos are me analyzing an assessment and walking you through it. This is a video from the first module. I did a short video about the science of reading and evidence-based reading instruction. How do they compare? Because obviously, the science of reading is something that we are hearing everywhere. How do they compare, and what do we need to be thinking about? They compare quite well, but you'll learn more in the video. We also, or I also put in lots of visuals. So this happens to be a visual that has recommendations that we have made that I just talked about on the previous slide. Assessing alphabetics and fluency, we can assume academic vocabulary needs, and we can hold off on assessing comprehension if students have weaknesses in other components. There still is a vocabulary assessment if you would like to do so, and there is a comprehension assessment available. These are all free to use. And then there are lots of printable resources. We talk about grade level equivalencies, which is kind of problematic in adult basic education because adults just have a lot more variety of vocabulary and prior knowledge than, say, a benchmarked second grader, or a fourth grader. But when we are doing assessment, we do want to have in mind the approximate grade levels that our NRS levels are at, and that also correspond with the college and career readiness levels. And so I updated this because, as you know, CASAS Life and Work has been sunsetted, and now I have CASAS Steps Reading in here along with CASAS Goals scores and TABE 11-12 scores. So lots of printable resources. If you want, you can print this out, print many of these things out, keep them at your desk, put them on a bulletin board, or just keep them on your desktop. Another quote, what has stood out to me the most with the students that I work with is their high needs for improved alphabetics and fluency and their high needs for vocabulary knowledge. I had some participants who uh, uh, prepare students for GED, and there I think were some surprises that when we looked at that initial comprehension score that came on a tape, for example, and then broke it down a little bit, noticing that students, even at more intermediate or higher levels, were having problems decoding multisyllable words, or were having trouble reading fluently when sentences just got longer, right? With more phrases and clauses, and comprehension is affected. Lots of examples and tools. So I have just a screenshot here about vocabulary. These are all downloadable. And I taught evidence-based reading to my adults for many, many years, and I created my own vocabulary units that were based on work by some other colleagues, and I include one of those vocabulary units because it really does follow the work of Mary Beth Curtis, who did some excellent research and writing about vocabulary instruction and adult learners, where it starts with introducing the words explicitly and then works its way through a series of activities that get increasingly more complex. There's an example read and respond activity where we don't have to find a text that uses the target vocabulary words we're working with. It's great if some do come out of the texts we're using, but we can also take virtually any text and use the words that we're working with in class, and create comprehension questions using those words. And there's an example of that close activity, knowledge rating charts for low that just have pictures instead of students saying, I know this word, I don't know this word. And then lots of ideas that I have collected over time. Another feature are tools. This is one of the tools in comprehension, and that teaching comprehension module, we talk about the think aloud and how we can talk through the invisible work of comprehension to make it visible to students who sometimes think it's magic, or they think it just comes easy, where there's a lot of work that goes in. This is from it's an old tool from Teaching Tolerance, which is now Learning for Justice, but it's a think aloud checklist, and you could certainly adapt it, but it's a great way where students are listening to you think out loud, and they just have to tally when they think you are making a prediction, or where they think you are making a connection, to start to develop some of those that metacognitive thinking about their thinking. And there are different resources that are available and are linked. This happens to be in the a part of the module that talks about how background knowledge is so key. I love this. I'm seeing this. Yep, alphabetics and fluency too little and comprehension too soon. Well, Eric, you know what? We have sometimes little time, ever-changing students, and we always are doing the best we can. So close reading, yes, absolutely. That is a great strategy. Also, the key research is linked. And so we have work by Curtis and Crudenier. We have the orange one here. I call it the orange one, the McShane book that really applies more of the research. Improving Adult Literacy Instruction. This is a book, but you can read it online for free. It's linked, and there were two important reports that came from this, one about supporting and motivating adults in literacy instruction, and one about developing reading and writing skills. Those are all linked. What's really exciting is we just got a new really neat resource that has been published, and it is about preparing adult English learners to read for college and the workplace. And I have my nose in that right now. And of course, whatever I find out, I will bring forward. One more pilot participant to bring us into the feature of assignment options. I really appreciated this comment because I know that people are going to be in different roles. Uh, I had an administrator, I had teachers, I had literacy assistants in my pilot, and the same assignment just isn't going to work for everybody in many of these modules. So there's some choice here. This is small. The slides will be on Sched, but I wanted to give you an example. So at the end of the alphabetics and fluency instruction module, there are choices. And one of the choices that works really for all levels is to create a short alphabetics or fluency lesson. I have a template. It's not the end all be all of lesson planning templates, but it does guide you through very, very clearly those steps of explicit instruction. You might say, nope, I would rather do something because I teach lower level learners and I want to do something different. I'm sure I know many of you are familiar with the language experience approach. But if you're not, you might want to choose this option and watch this great video from Pro Literacy and look at the process where a student uses oral language to dictate a text that the teacher then can use for any number of activities, literacy activities. Another option is to investigate one of the resources that is included in the module and reflect on how you might use it or adapt it for your students. And then finally, for program managers, there is a tool. It's a pretty short and sweet tool to go in and do a 15 or 30-minute observation of one of your teachers who is doing an alphabetics or a phonics lesson or doing something with fluency. So I think the options for some of the modules, hopefully people will be able to kind of create a little bit of a learning pathway. So let's look even closer. And I did want to take a few minutes to go in to diagnostic reading assessment, the module of fluency and assessment. And this is a great example. This it's what's called a page in Canvas. This is a real adult ed student. And you have the opportunity. The word reading test is a way that we test our students or assess our students and their alphabetics knowledge. So how are they decoding words? And as words get more complex with more syllables, at what point are they starting to wane a little bit in their decoding skills? If they are quite low on the word reading test, then there's an additional test here called the Sylvia Green, where you can do a quick assessment to start to identify very specific phonics patterns that students may need to work on. So thank you, Marisa. The WRT is the word reading test. So the page before has the instructions for how to give this test. And the page before that has everything you would need to give that test linked. These assessments that we are using in this course, we have used them for quite some time in Minnesota. They're all freely available. Well, the Bader is not, but I can give you access to the Bader. And they have been used with I don't know how many students across the country in adult basic education through STAR and through EBRI work. So these are not meant to replace. If you are using tools that work really well, um, or your program has invested money in, say, something to assess vocabulary or phonics, that's fine. These are here for folks who don't, who just want some things that have been well tested and are free to use. So here you would actually hear the learner.
Bank. Good. Yeah. Thursday. Yeah. Thursday. Complete.
So just a little bit of that. You actually will hear the student. And then I have videos. Go up a level to list C. So now on list C, Nasra started with citizen, but she said citizen. So the teacher determined that it was likely an accent issue in terms of language accent. Although Nasra did put the accent on the wrong syllable. Okay, so that is a video where I go through and Nasra's test, and I talk about it. I talk about what her responses were when she self-corrected, what she said instead of the word, how we should interpret. And what you just heard was me talk about how it was likely an accent issue, and that's really important when we're talking about learners and their decoding skills. Pronunciation is different. So if a student knows the word and pronounces it with an accent, what we're most concerned with at that moment is that if they were reading silently, they would know the meaning of the word. They would be able to recognize the word and lift it from the print. My best example of that would be if I was reading something, it would have to be fairly easy in Russian after all these years. And I, read it out loud. Like some languages, once you get past a certain level, the accent marks disappear and you just are supposed to know, right? I might read a passage and put accents on the wrong syllables, but I know the words, and when I'm done reading the passage, I know what I just read. Pronunciation is extremely important, but we're really looking to see if students are recognizing the words and those words are in their vocabulary. So, and this talks a little bit more about that. I'm going to click on the next page. And this is the Sylvia Green. So if you determine that you want to go a little bit lower, there is copies of materials. I also have videos that explain and I walk you through the testing materials and I show you all the options. And then administering it and the instructions, and then you get to hear a student take it. And again, you will hear me, the student, and then you will see the actual scores that I am giving the student. I'm just going to play this for a second. I'll jump in here.
Firm, curl, paddle, bomb, mellowed.
So you are going to see I'm recording as in real time what the student is saying in the Sylvia Green. All of the videos that I use slides, the slide decks are also included. And I'm gonna stop there. I'm keeping an eye definitely on the time. And then it goes into fluency and some ways to test fluency. So again, just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what's there. If anything, original participants were like, there's a lot here. And when I first started this, I remember Patsy Egan and I had several conversations, and I was literally going for a 16 graduate credit course, and so I had to pull back a little bit just to think about it being a bit of a framework, but we do have plans to expand in some different areas. I'll talk about that in a moment. Oops, sorry. And personalized feedback. I will be helming the course this first year. And if you have done ELA, CCRS ELA foundations online, either with Schoology or now in Canvas, you know that I give a lot of individualized feedback. I think it's important if you are spending the time to think about this, then somebody on the other end should be spending time to respond. And I learn a lot. I learn a ton from you on the other end of things. So, and if I don't know something, I know someone who does, and I will find that person. Those of you who have been to my trainings, have known me for a while, know that I do not claim to be an expert in every area of reading, and I do claim to be open about that, and I will find answers from people better equipped to give those answers. So, here's just a perfect example. A question came up during the pilot where a student had asked, if I teach, beginning ESL, how do I incorporate authentic texts? Because authentic texts can often be, at a level of complexity that's higher than what the student can manage. I went to Patsy and I asked Patsy that question because this is her wheelhouse, and was able to just give a really substantial answer to a student in the course. So um, I will be giving you feedback, and if I do get answers from someone else, I will give that person full credit, and I also have connected people to those people to have longer conversations. Patsy is the director of Atlas, and whereas I am really kind of the high level, advanced ESL up through high adult secondary, Patsy's sweet spot is really the lower level English learner, literacy level learner on up. And so I take advantage of that expertise every chance I get. So where can I access this course? That's the big question. And the Atlas website. And you will go to the Atlas website and click a few things. And I'm going to do that right now. You're going to go to key activities. You're going to click on reading, and then you're going to scroll down, and you are going to see Marisa is the magic who she's the one who posts these things. She was so gracious to do it for me very quickly a few days ago. So if we go to the Atlas website, um, in this case, we've got key activities. And then we see all these wonderful icons. It's very large on my screen because I have my screen enhanced here. But you go down to reading and then scroll down. And it is the newest resource. And if you click on that right now, this is going to be ready to go at the end of August. And there's a little more information here. And what you're going to get is, like our other Canvas courses, there will be explicit instructions that Marisa will place here that give you the join code to enroll in the course. You don't need me. You're going to be able to just sign up and then do with the course what you will. Whether you want to go through the entire course, you want to go in and check out some resources or some strategies, that is going to be up to you. But my hope is that next week it will be there. Marisa did put a link in the chat box where to this page. So again, you can go to key activities, reading, and then teaching reading to adults to that self-paced course. And it will be available by the end of August. I want to leave a little bit of time here for questions. I think I will. I've been trying to plow through this as quickly as I can. Really important point, and I'm so glad that Rob Podlasek uh, reminded me this morning when we were co-hosting Christina Miller's session. Do not forget your volunteers. Literacy Minnesota and Atlas have partnered on evidence-based reading instruction for a long time. Rob and Marn developed a lot of trainings specific to volunteers to help volunteers learn how to be really solid supports for teachers who are, teaching targeted instruction to alphabetics, to fluency, to vocabulary, to comprehension. And so just acknowledging that and also including here that there is an Atlas event calendar, and we do have Literacy Minnesota volunteer trainings that appear on our calendar. Here's also a link to the Literacy Minnesota event calendar. And there are always great trainings specific to, again, fluency, or specific to helping students improve their alphabetic skills. Volunteers are a valuable resource. The work of evidence-based reading instruction often means that we are going to need to have some different things going on in the same room. We may have two levels of fluency going on, for example. I know the elementary teachers out there always tell me, "Oh, running groups, multiple groups. How many groups do you want?" I was a high school language arts teacher, and like groups where they're working on a project in small groups. But if I had a time where they were working on maybe different levels of the same thing, that that was not something that came easy to me as a as a secondary teacher. So volunteers are so valuable anyway. They can be an incredibly valuable resource to give even more targeted instruction, and they can learn to conduct diagnostic reading assessment as well. You can learn and you can even train. We've trained through Literacy Minnesota in the past. We could perhaps do that again, but my educational assistant, I actually trained her, and I was one of the teachers who said, no, 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 I'm the teacher for these students. I know these students. I have the reading background. But what ended up happening was Deanna did such a wonderful job on the DRA, the diagnostic reading assessment, because there were times when I would think, oh, no, but I know the student knows something about this, or, oh, you know what? I think the student is maybe having an off day because I know this student. Deanna just scored them, as they did the assessments, right? And I found that sometimes she was more accurate than I was because she just scored what she heard. And so don't forget about your volunteers or your educational assistants and paras. And I know some of you have volunteers who maybe are even retired reading teachers or retired elementary teachers. Before questions, I'm trying to do this math here. A couple things. One final pilot quote here. Um, she was really quite amazed that she was giving the alphabetics and fluency tests, and she was seeing that they were coming out, whereas they had one comprehension score, they were coming out at different levels for alphabetics and fluency, and it's highly likely that those were reasons that the learner was struggling with comprehension. And there's more to come. I'm going to be adding a text complexity module this year. There's also going to be a module added about adult secondary readers. So what if we are working with those more advanced readers? And super exciting, we have some work going on through Atlas about supporting those literacy level teachers. You have students and they don't know the alphabet. They don't understand the concept of print. Where do they fall? And as part of that work, I am not developing this, but we are going to have a module developed specifically to look at the concept of teaching reading for that level. And we're going to keep making this better with your help. So if you are someone who's going to be part of this, your evaluation at the end of the course is going to be so important, or even contacting me. That's what makes these things better. So questions, I see this. You mentioned authentic reading for low ESL. Where can we find some good stories? Well, that's a great question. There are places like Pathways to Literacy. There was a great article about that website in the Minnesota ABE Connect in the last few months. Of course, there are the Bow Valley Readers and reading skills for adults, although really high intermediate ESL on up. But as far as authentic texts, this would be something that, oh, that's Life Books. Thank you for that. Everyday things that adults are learning or are using. That's the beauty of authentic text. Perhaps things they're using at work, perhaps advertisements, things that they're interacting with directly, where some of the text they're going to need scaffolding in order to do that text. I'm happy to give you some of those recommendations, Jacqueline, if you want to shoot me an email or bring others into that conversation. But we do know that we need text that is at particular levels, but our learners also need authentic texts as well that build engagement and motivation. And yes, thank you. The Literacy Minnesota resources, an online tool. I recommend those Literacy Minnesota resources for lower level ESL students to my Rutgers students. So I do appreciate those. Any other questions? How much time do we have here, Marisa?
We have about 2 minutes left, a scant 2.
Yeah, that adult ELL Pathway to Literacy website, that is something. And I really encourage you. There's a lot there. Marn Frank's stories, are you talking about, is it Story to Story? Is that what it was called, Krista?
Story by story?
Story by story. Yeah. Yes, there are, but you can purchase it still from LDA, the Learning Disabilities Association, for really cheap. Certainly for those of you who've been in adult basic ed for a long time, Story by Story was something that was great, very simple texts and phonics work with those texts. And go ahead again and email me. I'm happy to take your email. Thank you. I am so when do I sleep? I don't sleep. I don't ever sleep. I sleep for like 10 minutes every night. Um, but thank you. Email me, 45 minutes. I'd love to talk more, but that's what we had. You can email me. I'll be a little slow this week because of grades and Summer Institute, but and thank you, because I know there are many of you who are attending today who've been part of this work and have contributed your piece to this, and I'm very grateful for that. Oh, thank you, Sherry. Yeah, Marn, she actually emailed me. She said, "Can I look at your course?" And I'm like, "Oh, super stressed." Marn, this is a true mentor for me. I'm very, very fortunate to have met her when I did in adult ed. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Christine.